I'm like, yeah, this song's in C. And he's like, no, it's not. I'm like, oh, sorry, I have a capo on my second fret. And he's like, how about you just learn to play your instrument every time? Every time.
The humble Nate. How about you learn to play your instrument?
It's also hard to be a really good guitar player when you have like Nate making the noise right next to you, and you're just like,
that's fair, dude. He's amazing.
He's very kind to my guitar playing most of the time, though. He always compliments my bar chords and stuff like that, because I know a lot of chords. I might not be able to play any kind of lead lines like he can, but I know many chords, and I'm pretty proud of that. But
dude, when we were gearing up for that Newville show, and he was like doing super heavy prog on a 3-string guitar in like 5/8 just casually, and I was like, dude, I've been playing guitar since like 2008. What are you doing and how?
Yeah,
I'm just watching it behind the drums.
It's
like,
crazy.
what?
Yeah, I'm constantly just staring. I'm just like fascinated. It's crazy stuff.
That guy's fantastic. He's humble too. In addition to being fantastic, he's just like, oh, it's whatever.
Yeah, I very rarely ever heard him be not humble about his guitar playing. I think he made one joke one time about how, like, if he goes into a room full of guitarists, it's all right because he knows he's the best one. I've never heard him be cocky about his guitar playing ever until that moment.
Wow, and he's got one.
And that guy, he's, very ironic and stuff like that. He might have been completely kidding, just shitting on himself and not knowing he was also complimenting himself. I'm not too sure.
No, so that's cool. So we got how you started. We got what you're doing right now, which is amazing. So I have a couple of key questions that I'm asking everybody, and I'm going to compile this stuff. Number one, so when you play guitar, do you, and why if you do, use a capo?
At first, okay. So when I started playing guitar a lot, I was constantly playing Beatles. I played lots and lots and lots of Beatles, and I still do play lots and lots of... I know. This guy playing Beatles songs. And most of the time, the Beatles played in open keys, and they never used a capo. There's a couple songs that they've used a capo, maybe like 2 or 3 songs an album. And I always had a capo around, and I always played with a capo, and that was the only reason I ever played with a capo. So I don't think I've really learned the proper, theories and ways about it. I've read the chords on a sheet, and I was like, oh, capo on the second fret. Done.
Right on.
And so that's what I did for years, for the longest time. And then the more and more I started getting to my own writing in my own music the last 2 or 3 years now, I've been, just writing song after song after song. And at first it was like, 5 or 6 songs, and they're all in different keys mostly. And it's pretty cute. It's pretty nice. And they're all pretty different. And then you get to like a year in, and then you have like 20 songs, and then a couple more like half songs you've written. And, most of them are in different keys, and most of them sound pretty different. And then you get 2 or 3 years into recording, and you have just like notebook papers like surrounding you all over the place. And guitar is a really, really cool instrument, but it's not like the piano. It's not laid out in a smart way.
You're
that
right.
makes sense. And so eventually, playing the same chords the same way in the same keys does get repetitive, and it does sound the same. And I can't tell you how many songs I have in C, A, E, and D, and G, because those are your cowboy chords, and those are your easy.
Got the caged.
Right.
system.
So lately, when I write on guitar, I've been using a lot more capos to try to vary the key up a little bit, and to get into some other range and territory, just so it doesn't sound too... Like, I'm writing stuff that I think is very different from each other. Like, I don't think too many of my songs sound exactly the same, despite what key they're in, or if they're in the same key or not. But I just need to mix it up a little bit. I need the tone variety and the different palette.
Yeah. So we have a yes for capos.
Yes for capos. Nate, I'm sure, told you to learn to play your instrument, which is his favorite line to use on me when I pick up a capo. And I'm like,
what's sad?
All right, Nate,
I didn't ask him.
You didn't ask him. There's his answer for you.
That was episode 1, so Nate's a no capo.
No capo guy.
Dude, he's 2.
But it's a lie. I've seen him use a capo many times. Usually I'll start playing a song. I'm like, yeah, this song's in C. And he's like, no, it's not. I'm like, oh, sorry, I have a capo on my second fret. And he's like, how about you just learn to play your instrument every time? Every time.
The humble Nate. How about you learn to play your instrument?
And then like he'll start playing and he'll transpose in his head, and we'll get like maybe a half hour into playing this song, and he's been transposing this whole time. I'm throwing different chords out because we're writing the song as we go, or throwing different chords out to him, and he's transposing every single one. And it gets eventually like maybe 20-30 minutes into it, and he's like, "Where's that capo?" And he reaches and he grabs it. He puts the capo on too. Eventually, he gives in. At some point, he stops transposing.
No kidding.
For the most part, he'll stay away from a capo. Me, I'll use a capo if the Beatles said so, or if I think I've been writing too many songs in the same keys lately, then I'll try to mix it up a little bit. But
dude, that's fair. Yeah, dude, I use a capo, but so far, if Nate's a no, but he does anyway, I'd give him a. He's on both sides of the fence. We got one person that I've had here. There's not absolutely a capo in sight.
Do they use alternate like tunings and stuff like that?
D standard, so they're a step down, and just plays it in that key, or we'll transpose it and use different chord
They learn
shapes.
how to play their instrument. Good for them.
Dude, apparently.
Good for them.
Me, I'm sitting there and it's like, as a finger picker, you know what I mean? It's like I want a first position G, but I'm playing a D,
exactly.
Like, a concert D, but I want to play a G shape. And it's like, well, I'm not going to slide up and bar a D and then like try to finger. It's like, no, well, if I go first position, I can do a ton of noodling.
Right.
But I mean, that's just my 2 cents. So I'm getting everybody on that.